Here at the Well Ed podcast, we are preoccupied with what it takes to lead like a human. Human leadership entails a surprisingly small number of essential mindsets and behaviors. Demonstrating care, providing support, choosing grace, and moving to action. In other words, leaders need to think about and act with care, support, and grace. And we've spent the last 3 months trying to draw an accurate picture of what competencies are needed for leaders to demonstrate care. We've explored the need for vulnerability, the impact of empathy, and the choice to be in good humor. This is so far an exploration that has been somewhat limited to what skills are important and how to develop the relevant capabilities. But why do we need to concern ourselves with demonstrating care? What does caring leadership provide to the workplace? It's simple, really, and yet crucial. When leaders set the tone with vulnerability, empathy, and good humor, they both establish and make possible the most vital building block of organizational effectiveness, because demonstrating care creates healthy, effective relationships. Each quarter, we're looking at 3 interconnected skills in 4 ways in order to understand the mindsets behind the skill and teach practical ways to apply it in day-to-day leadership. 12 episodes to explore one aspect of leading well. And each quarter presents an opportunity for a 13th episode, a bonus, a chance to look back and synthesize what we've learned. It also gives me the space to do something a little different every few months. And today, this will take the shape of a conversation with someone whose leadership experience looks very different from mine. I've invited my husband, Nate, to join me, specifically to bring his differing perspective to bear on the question of how demonstrating care creates healthy, effective relationships at work. I'll present key lessons and ideas and ask for his candid response, and for him to question me about the practicalities, challenges, and benefits of leaders being vulnerable, empathetic, and in good humor. Hello, Nate.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, of course.
Especially in the recording space that you built for me.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Over 100 episodes ago.
Yes. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to start, dearest, is by asking you to share your experience with leadership, the roles that you've held, and the people who've shaped your opinions of leaders and leadership.
I was a scoutmaster for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, when you were doing the intro there, there's one person that comes to mind, and it's my current employer. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about somebody who can lead and who really shows their vulnerability, but doesn't show it in a way that's a huge negative. The guy is just unbelievable. And I think some of his leadership came from the same sources that mine did. He's also an Eagle Scout and, spent a lot of time with the organization, but he's also in a family-owned business that's been that way for a long time.
Yeah.
I will just call him Paul.
There we go.
Yeah.
He's a good man.
Paul is an amazing leader and a very good man. Just a very good human in general.
I don't want to downplay your Navy experience either. You had some...
I had one really
semi-formal.
One really solid leader that had decent emotional intelligence, but
not just the leadership, but you had the opportunity to serve in what we could probably call semi-formal leadership roles yourself. When you were going through school during some training.
And for the most part, I was a child and botched a lot of that. It's not a big deal.
Hey, we learn from our mistakes even more than we do our successes.
I'd rather not go into all that. Again, I don't
fair.
feel that my military leadership was anything to write home about.
Okay, that's fair. I will grant that. I know though from you having to hear me talk about work, the work I do so much, and how I see you lead casually, like among friends and family situations, I do think that those experiences have shaped you.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And I think that's an important thing for people to recognize broadly, that we don't have to carry a title like manager or vice president to lead. And that plays out then in how we're creating those working relationships that we have.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Well, you start with yourself, right? You've got to lead yourself first, and then you can think about what does it take to lead a team
I've
or a
been
business.
mismanaged for decades.
Hey, my boss, whew, she's a piece of work. So what I want to do, Nate, is do kind of a progression through what we've spent the last 3 months talking about. Share the competencies, what they are, and what the desired result is of each. And then kind of string those together. I think of it as sort of a leadership arithmetic, and just ask you to kind of question and respond to it. Does that sound feasible?
Sure.
Awesome.
It's your nickel.
It is. It is indeed. Thank you for that. All right. So first, we have vulnerability, which is the act of making weakness visible. It's not being naked. It's not exposing everything, but it is an acknowledgement. I have flaws and soft places that can be hurt. Leaders express their vulnerability by making their humanity present. Leading well depends on the ability to be human, and vulnerability is the basis for revealing our humanity. And what that does is create trust. When I am able to show, like, I also have soft places, I am willing to trust you with them, employee, that is the start of becoming trustworthy, which is the foundation for everything else that's going to happen in that leader-employee relationship. Any first thoughts?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm following along.
It's an acceptable answer. All right, then we have empathy, which is, the simplest way to define it is the ability to feel what someone else is feeling. It expresses itself through our feelings about other people's feelings, which is known as affective empathy, and in our ability to take on another person's perspective, which is cognitive empathy. Empathy allows us to glimpse another's feelings and point of view, and is the path to understanding and effective caregiving. Because empathy, we've defined it multiple times, is that path to understanding or a striving to understand someone else. So you are creating this beyond yourself connection to another person. I am vulnerable. I am open about who I am. And then I turn my attention to understanding the other person. And empathy is the tool for that. Then we round out this triad of care with good humor, which is not joking around. It's not about having a laugh. What it is not denying the fact of tough situations or hard feelings, and embracing the good with the bad, recognizing both the fact of human frailty and the power of our capabilities. We do all of this so that we can choose how we respond to our circumstances and to each other. And that choice, good humor, is a choice to respond with care, kindness, and sometimes laughter. Because it is an active choice pertaining to our attitude, it allows leaders to maintain trust and sustain understanding. The good humor's function in demonstrating care is that it demonstrates consistency. So demonstrating care is a factor of trust, understanding, and consistency. And those are the making of healthy relationships. So by this logic, if you will, care leads to relationships.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
That's been my experience.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I feel is kind of the good part, and also sort of the sneaky secret behind this is none of it's revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
It's just putting very clearly into words this is what it looks like. This is why it matters. Leaders, here's how you go about doing it.
Yeah.
And there is a flexible sequence to it, starting with, do I know myself well enough to be vulnerable? Do I pay attention to the people around me? And do I consistently choose to show up as my best self?
Yeah, that tracks.
So I think all of this begs the question, though, is why do relationships matter at work? I think that's an obvious thing, but it probably begs us to actually say this is why it matters. I'm fond of saying that relationships are how we get work done, but there's a deeper significance that it is the connections and the knowledge of other people that makes it possible for us to delegate, to connect not just in terms of interpersonal connections, but also within the organization. That if I have relationships beyond just my team or my friends, I'm able to plug people in where they need. I can refer you to the person that will help you. I see the lines that connect us all. So relationship beyond the person to person, but also function to function. And that if you have that consistent understanding and trust, you become a known factor within your organization that people will be open to taking your referrals, to responding to your requests, to doing the work to remove barriers for your team. So you're caring not just for the individuals, but also for this kind of larger body of work.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's
just scale.
Yeah.
It's scale and focus of it. But that's exactly right. And that's one of the things where it's simple. It may not always be easy because we're human.
Well, maybe not for you introverts.
This is true. This is true. Sometimes for extroverts too, right? It's all on the outside for you.
It depends if you go over to another department and you're trying to talk to somebody and they're an introvert, and yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
You gotta find your other extroverts. Then it's easy.
So what are some questions as we've kind of progressed through, start with vulnerability to getting to a place where that is going to result in relationships that come to mind for you?
Well, you talk about vulnerability, but not nakedness.
Mm-hmm.
What are you drawing that line? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you. So I'm going to try to avoid giving the organizational development consultant's favorite answer of it depends.
Yeah, right.
But there is some situational appropriateness. What is the culture? Is it both in terms of the company and also kind of where you live and work and are? What are the boundaries? What is oversharing? There are...
Yeah, I'd love an answer for that because I've never been able to figure that one out.
Well, you are open. You are an open book, my dear.
And very shameless.
Yes,
so,
you are.
Yeah, it leads to oversharing.
I carry enough shame for both of us. I'm trying to think of an actual example of think of a time when. So something that is pretty common in the workplace, people will experience breakups or divorces, right? And a very private leader may not disclose to their team that they're going through this at home, but it's impacting their attendance, their ability to pay attention, their time.
Oh, it affects a lot of things.
Right? Exactly. So there's this spectrum of I tell you nothing, but you experience the fact that there's something going on that I'm not sure of. So there's kind of this uncertainty and something hidden. That's very different than at the other end of the spectrum coming in and telling all the horror stories about why you've chosen to divorce your spouse, taking up all the time and energy in the workday to
Right.
explain all those things, monopolizing people's time and attention, giving them all the gory details.
Yeah. That feels unnecessary.
Exactly. There is a spot in between those that each person would have to navigate for him or herself of, hey, what that can sound like is, I have some things going on at home. You know, I'm pretty private. I don't want to discuss it openly or overly much, but I just want to make you aware that
my personal life is crumbling.
Yeah, my spouse and I are going through a divorce, and that may impact my, I may be a bit distracted. I know I'm going to be out of the office some, for meetings and for court dates. I will try to be as available as possible. It lets people know, hey, you're human. You have something going on. It's not necessarily related to me. I don't have to worry about, like, you're not responding to me. I'm going to lose my job.
Right.
But it gives you clear boundaries. Next month, we're going to be talking about the skill of clarity and how that is part of providing support for people. One of the things that I believe is wildly important when it comes to clarity for leaders is being clear about your relationships, the boundaries that you have with your team, with your peers, with your leaders. And when you set those boundaries, it can be tightly scribed around your personal life, but you still kind of owe it. If you want your people to be open and forthcoming with you, you need to demonstrate that. You have to go first.
Yeah.
So that's the be vulnerable but not naked. Recognize that there's a whole spectrum that you can behave upon, from totally closed off to rampant nudity, if you will. And that there is a space in the middle that is appropriate for you and for your team.
Right.
Okay.
So that's always the trick then, is finding that middle ground.
Yeah. Well, and you're probably going to get it wrong sometimes. I think that's another thing. This is not about perfection. It's not about getting it right every time, particularly when it comes to vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'll refresh that the root of that word comes from vulna, which is, I want to say Greek, maybe Latin, for wound.
Okay.
So there is messiness just kind of implied there. Wounds are not clean and tidy things. So vulnerability means that you're sometimes going to get it wrong. And you may have to then practice your vulnerability by going back and saying, you know what, I'm really sorry. I dumped on you. I vented to you about something that isn't yours to worry about. I am committed to doing better the next time. What do you need from me right now?
Yeah, I get it.
What else?
Give me the second point again.
Empathy.
I think that one's, it's not easy, but it's pretty straightforward.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
The whole walk a mile in somebody else's shoes thing.
Yeah.
That's an easy one to miss, though, if you've got stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very easy to be in your own head and not, like, even if you're aware of what's going on with somebody else, it's not always easy to recognize how they're going to deal with it. My jury that I served on a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
Yeah, when we came back in for deliberation, in my head, I was like, oh yeah, this is cut and dry. Like, I know exactly how everybody's going to, oh no, I did not. I did not. Yeah. Oh, I was amazed at the different, the different takes on the evidence that we had seen. It was wild. What a really, really interesting emotional roller coaster for me, going, how the hell is that your takeaway from this? But Yeah, without going into any specifics.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm allowed to discuss it, but it doesn't need to be here.
Thank you. I think
I have drawn a boundary.
you're such a good role model. I like that as an example because here's this shared experience, and it would be very easy to go from the courtroom to the deliberation room and be like, we all had the same experience without pausing to consider others' perspectives. And I'm not saying that you didn't do that, but
I think
that's the lesson.
Yeah, I came in thinking, oh, this is gonna be quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can knock this. Yeah, and the result of that. We were there for 12 hours total that second day. So yeah, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But again, yeah, my empathy didn't kick in until after I heard people start talking about it. I was like, oh, okay, I can see where. Yeah, I get that. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, it is a really good kind of microcosm of what the average leader will experience.
It was a beautiful microcosm of our town. Like that's
that too.
That's what I really loved, is that jury was very diverse. Like, we were just kind of all over the place, and that's exactly what you want. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what you need for decisions like that.
Yeah. Well, and
you need that. You need that spread.
Yeah, you do need multiple perspectives to get the best outcomes. There may be exceptions, but we'll avoid that particular rabbit trail.
Well, you can always find an exception.
Yeah. But I like this as an example for leaders to consider, that you have to listen for other people's perspectives. And empathy will only take you so far in that. Yes, you can imagine, you may have the best imagination out there and be able to nearly understand what someone is experiencing, but until you open the dialogue with them to explore, what is it that you're thinking? What did you experience when we saw this, when we did this thing? Are you clear about the expectations for you? Until you open that up, you can't confirm.
Sure. The other extreme end of that, though, is you can't treat every idea in the workplace as a sequestered jury.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right.
You can't always have consensus.
Well, and so I think that part of caring for other people is creating good boundaries around roles and responsibilities, because we kind of need to know, like, what's expected of me. And that gets a little bit more into the conversation about providing support that starts next month. But it still has a place here, that none of this is being done kind of willy-nilly, all bets off. There are boundaries around how we do vulnerability, right? We talked about that. Empathy is not just leniency. I feel bad for you. That's pity. It's not empathy for other people trying to accomplish work alongside you. And even good humor is not about, let's have a laugh and waste some time.
It's not class clown.
Exactly. It's all within this context of we are trying to accomplish a shared goal.
My favorite for the last point, and I've been dying to tell this story. I know you're familiar with this story, but I don't know how well you remember it. That scanner in Paul's office, he has a flatbed scanner, and it gets pretty heavy use to the point where the paper eventually scratched the glass on the auto feeder.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a staple or something went through. I don't know, but it was very fine abrasions, but it was causing a dark spot, a line on all the scans. And I thought, man, like, what do I need to do to fix this? Well, I start trying everything I can. Finally, I'm like, I'm just going to grab the less used one out of the other office. Well, it's same manufacturer. The model number is like 10 off. Like,
okay.
It's a 4-digit number and the last two numbers are different. Yeah. Right. So it's still a 5400 series or whatever it was. The drivers are completely incompatible.
Oh no.
So I broke 2 offices by trying to swap these. At this point, I probably had, I don't know, 4, 5 hours in this trying to get this thing working. Paul walks in and he goes, "How you doing, Nate?" I said, "I've been better. I'm ripping my hair out." He goes, "You got a half hour. Mess with it for another half hour. If you can't fix it by then, we're taking it out back in office space in it." And it broke my mood, and it fixed me so that I could step back, look at the problem logically. And you know what I did? I got on eBay. I put them back where they belonged. I got on eBay and I bought another one for, I think, $50. Like it's discontinued. They don't make it anymore.
Oh my
but
goodness.
you know, you can buy one on eBay for $50.
Yeah.
Brand new, like still sealed. It showed up. It was still factory sealed. It still had all the little blue and orange shipping tape on it from HP.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was brand new.
Yeah.
And so I threw the other one in my this is parts room and went on about my day.
That is, Paul is a good exemplar of a lot of this.
For that. Yeah.
I know my people well enough to know what they're good at. When I see that they're struggling, what's the need here?
It's got to be easier in a small company like that too. When you start getting into like larger corporations where you've got the CEO that's responsible for, 10,000 people, it gets really difficult to model all of these behaviors that you're talking about. So what you see is the more compartmentalized stuff. You see it in a division, you see it in a department, you see it in a team.
So I love that you brought this up because I think the answer to it's easier with a small company is yes and no. Because a CEO...
A lot more interaction, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also...
what is it? The familiarity breeds contempt. Aesop's fables, right?
Yeah. But here's the thing. A CEO over a large company, they are in the day-to-day not responsible for 10,000 people.
Oh, no.
They're responsible for their team.
Yeah.
And setting the tone and the standard for that. And
you're saying the policies say model at the top. It
has to cascade down.
Yeah.
I do think there's, one of the things I've addressed in 101s and in training sessions with leaders, like frontline leaders, middle managers, who will ask questions like, "This sounds great, Kate, but I don't see this modeled above me." That's when you choose to take a leadership position, you don't, what's the right word? You're not saying I'm only going to do what I see above me. It's what do I see as the right practice?
Right. At some point, if you don't see it above you, you have to still model it.
You have to, regardless.
Yeah.
That is the choice that you have. And if you can't, if it's untenable, you have a more difficult choice to make of whether you can continue to lead at that organization or not. But that CEO has to recognize, I need to do this for my team and make certain they're clear that they're doing this for their teams, and that there's accountability and validation happening. In large organizations, the top tiers can use employee data to understand if it's happening, turnover numbers, recommendation, like, would you recommend this as a place to work?
Yeah, satisfaction surveys.
Yes. Engagement surveys, drilling down into things like promotion rates, and where there are lots of patterns that data can reveal to help you understand if that's happening. But if you're not doing it first, CEO, don't bother. Don't bother. If your team doesn't experience this from you, there's no hope of it getting down. And you shouldn't be asking your managers to do it if you won't.
Yeah.
I'm pretty adamant about that. Now, that's perfect case. There is the case of, all right, mid-level manager, you believe this is the right way to lead, and you look around and above you and don't see it, you still have responsibility and agency to say, this is how I'll do it. It will be harder.
If you can effectively manage a team like that, though, a lot of times you end up moving up the pyramid.
Yeah. And again,
I'm not saying they're going to put you in a C-suite for mid-level manager, but
no, it gets noticed because you're getting different results.
Yeah.
And that's either celebrated
or reviled.
or you start getting the signals that maybe this really isn't the right place for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to make light of that.
We've
that
had friends go
choice.
through that just recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to get that anywhere.
Wow, you're really making a difference. You should do that somewhere else.
What about the choice to be in good humor? Any thoughts or questions on that one?
Oh, no, that's what I was just addressing with the the Office Space reference.
That's true.
Yeah. And that business is such a wonderful place to be anyway, because at the end of the day, it's kind of very obvious that nobody's dying if it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's it's a good place to be.
It is. I'm very grateful for your employer.
Me too.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too, is if you understand the purpose of the work, the weight of the work, it allows you to slot in these mindsets and behaviors appropriately.
Oh yeah, I don't know how many times I've been working for a company and they really had no concept of how little importance what should actually be ascribed to what they were doing.
Yeah.
There was always this mindset that they were the most important thing ever, and you're not.
No,
you're not.
Well, I worked in acute care
now
settings for 20 years.
That's a life and death thing.
But yes,
in the OR,
or there are places.
ED.
There are places where yes, we are talking about life or death, because the core work is important. Like life hangs in the balance, does not mean that every single activity within the organization is.
Right. The periphery is not in the OR.
Yeah.
The periphery is not in the ED.
Yeah. And those are still important jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And those people are doing important work supporting a mission that hopefully they believe in. But you have to have realistic expectations of that. And even in the OR, right? People will make mistakes.
Yeah, you got to try and minimize that.
Exactly.
High reliability.
You and I have had the high reliability conversation.
See episode 2.
Yes.
Back when this was the old name.
Yeah, the comfy chairs. We're allowed to mention it.
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure if we wanted to put that in the algorithm or not.
It'll be fine. It'll be just fine. I refer to it as formerly the comfy chairs all the time. But that is
the podcast formerly known as.
Yeah. Yeah. But that is a good callback, if you will, that you do have to establish processes that make it possible for people to function these ways.
Yeah.
And create safety. And again, because
let's be honest, even when the work's not fun, you should at least enjoy some of what you do at work,
exactly.
or you will not last.
Yeah.
You have to have some level of satisfaction from what you're doing, or you're just, yeah.
Well, I had
not long for that job.
While we're talking about past episodes during the old name era, a long conversation with Peggy, who's been a guest this season as well, about sacred work. That not necessarily, in terms of religious sacredness, but that there is value and worthiness in the work that we do. And that seeing it as such, not just as an employee, but as a leader, allows you to not to make light of things. That's not quite the right way I want to talk about. It's what you talked about, to build deeper satisfaction in work accomplished. And as a leader, being able to honor and treat people with the respect that they deserve because they're there doing work, even if it might be deemed menial or inconsequential by other people, that there is still nobility in doing work.
I was subcontracting, and they kept redoing the design up in the design area. And so we would we'd pull a bunch of cable and start terminating, and then the next day they'd come in and have the entire design change. And this happened like 3 times over the course of a week. And I finished out the week and didn't go back. It was a decent paying job too, but it wasn't worth that level of hassle.
It makes me wonder what systems are broken. Where is leadership lacking that those types of things are occurring with that level of frequency?
Yeah, I don't know. It was probably just a poor project manager, and they were fighting with one of their vendors who also had a big stake in how this came out. And instead of getting their ducks in a row and then starting to put us to work, they just started throwing work at us without any real plan, and it was extremely frustrating.
Well, yeah. Think about it.
And like I said, it wasn't the guy who I was contracting through. It wasn't his fault.
This kind of goes back to you're going to mess it up sometimes, leader. What do you do?
Well, yeah, I lodged a complaint at the beginning. I didn't lead with that.
Yeah, but again, we don't have to totally break down this particular circumstance. But what I would want leaders listening to this to think about, it's not just sorry that happened to you, Nate, but also, how do I avoid creating those circumstances where, because I am more focused on results than anything else, like at the cost of people's time and patience, you have to front load that effort. And that's a way of being careful with your people's time, attention, and skills.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think there was a good way for those people to model anything for me other than to send a completed plan down or say, hey, look, this part of the project's still in flux. Why don't you guys focus over here? And that would have been much more acceptable.
That's that question of consistency.
Yeah.
And why it matters. And in this particular circumstance, the lack of consistency damaged the relationship.
And a lack of showing of any vulnerability is the one that bothered me the most.
Yeah.
Like there was not even an apology when we're in there tearing out the stuff we had put in the day before. Or if there was, it didn't make it down to us guys at the deck level.
Yeah. Nate, thank you. That is a simple practice that I know I talked about way back in January, but I think it bears repeating all the time, is that you can be vulnerable, empathetic, and good-humored with an apology. And the apologies are one of the most powerful tools that leaders have.
Oh, yeah.
Genuine, authentic apologies.
Yeah. That would have changed my attitude around that in a minute.
As all of this is predicated on the fact that we're all human, we make mistakes. And as the leader, you have to own that first. Like, I'm going to mess up, even though I'm in a position of responsibility. And that means I need to get really good at saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If I want to have healthy relationships with the people that are looking to me to lead.
Never had an apology from somebody that was managing me that made me not want to work for them more. Like, it's never turned me off to working for somebody.
Same.
To have them say, hey, I'm sorry about this.
Interestingly enough, the teams that you hear about doing well, that have kind of the best rapport and performance, there's some element of that.
Well, combat teams, yeah,
especially
those from the stories I've heard from combat vets, you know, up to and including my dad.
Yeah,
that level of vulnerability, expression of vulnerability, is it's part of what makes them a family. Like my division and some of my close friends on the boat were family, but I would say for the most part it was coworkers.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a lot of guys in like a combat platoon who don't see each other as family. Again, that's speculation. I could be very wrong.
Honestly, I'm not a fan of the whole like, oh, we're family here at this business or this workplace. I don't think that's the right mental model, but there can be a level of camaraderie, collegiality, closeness that we don't really have a good way to define. It's not friendship. It's not family. It's not.
What's the line from Sports Night? No, this is very much a job and you're very much like an employee.
Yes, exactly. But you can still have care and concern.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, but I'm curious, again, there does seem to be this universal understanding that, hey, when we are real with our people, when we let them know that we care about them, when we prioritize how we show up in order to help them do their best work, everybody kind of knows that that's the better way, if not the best way to lead. Why do we have so many environments where it's like, well, that's not really how we do it here?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think that is?
If I had a nickel for that. Peer pressure. I'm going to go right back to when you show up at a place and the guy who at the top of the organization isn't like that.
Mm-hmm. Or girl. Guy or girl.
The person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say
I've always
that's all
used
men.
guy as a generic.
That's fair. You do use that. Yeah. But I just want to be clear too. Like, that's not just men that do that. Women do it too.
Sure. I'd say women are a little less likely, but definitely not exempt.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that there is so much anecdotal evidence and research now in the modern workplace about the benefits of leading like a human, that there is still this sense of, oh, well, in the military, we don't do that. Or in this particular sector, we don't do that. This industry doesn't do that. When even in pockets, a single organization may have a team where they're being led with humanity and it makes a difference in that team's performance, that it's still dismissed.
Yeah.
And that may not be an answerable question.
Yeah, it's not by me.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I don't know if all those studies are out there for the general public to pick up or not. But I'd say if I had my choice to pick between a company that I knew led with human leadership over something that was, more militaristic, I would definitely not choose the militaristic. There's a reason I got out of the Navy.
Well, I think my dear friend and husband, we've canvassed this.
All right.
Pretty effectively.
Well, hopefully my opinions haven't been utter garbage.
They have not been by any stretch. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome.
Don't forget, the latest companion toolkit is available. Check the show notes for a link to request your free copy. And as always, if this episode was useful, you can support the show by following or subscribing on your preferred podcast platform, or by sharing it with someone who's navigating similar leadership challenges. We'll be back next Tuesday with the first episode exploring the leadership essential to provide support with the competency of clarity. And later this season, we'll explore the role and importance of accountability and feedback. If you want updates on episodes, resources, and upcoming offerings from 123 Limited, you can join the newsletter at any time. Thanks again for being here, and I look forward to continuing the conversation next week.